Now the Exalted One says, you who believe, it has been ordained for you requital with regards to wrongful death and killing. The free for the free, the slave for the slave, the female for the female. And whoever has been granted pardon from the affected side in any matter, then they are to follow it in righteousness and to show excellence to them, because this is a dispensation and a lightening from your Lord and a mercy. Whoever transgresses after that has a severe punishment indeed. When the Exalted One has said, you who believe, it's been ordained for you requital. Shayban narrated from Qatada that the people of Jahiliyyah, whenever there used to be any wrongdoing among them, or any tribulation such as this, what would happen is, in their obedience to the shaitan, the tribe that had committed wrong would take out someone from among them and allow the other tribe to kill a slave from among them. And they would then say, some of the people, no, we won't just kill a slave. We want to kill a living and free person as a warning to you. So whenever a woman was killed from an enemy tribe, they would then put up another woman to be killed in order to stave off warfare. But they used to say, we won't kill her, except it will also kill a man. So this ayah was revealed. And so the expression, it's been ordained for you, means that it has been made compulsory for you. And the statement, al-qisas, requital, has to do with an action that is like for like. So if it is said, how can this be compulsory when the person that has been wronged has the choice between committing that action and pardoning the person who committed the crime against them? The answer is that the ayah is not saying that it's fard to do requital, but it means that it's fard for the killer to be subjected to the choice of the wronged party on what shall be done with him. So whoever is pardoned from the affected side, meaning the blood of his brother or his family member, and so the victim's side leaves the request for the killing of that person, and they are pleased with the recompense of the expiation being paid, then this is the affair. You must also remember that the ayah says from his brother, min akhihi, which is demonstrable proof that the murderer does not become an unbeliever that exits from Islam due to his murder. And when it says, so follow it up with righteousness, that means that seeking righteousness to have the killer pardoned by the family, by going to the choice of expiation, by paying a settlement, is the best way and shows excellence and ihsan. And when it says this is a lightening or a lightening of the matter from your Lord, Sa'id ibn Jubayr says that for the people of the Torah, Allah had judged that the one who has committed murder is killed and cannot be pardoned. No expiation can be taken from him. But Allah has given this expiation to the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam So if the victim's side chooses to pardon, they may pardon. And if they choose that the killer should be killed, he may be killed. And if they choose to take a settlement, they may take that settlement. So when the Exalted One says, so whoever transgresses after that means oppresses, and whoever kills, whoever then goes and murders the killer after taking the expiation has a severe punishment indeed, because he has taken what has been promised in the revealed law, but he has still committed murder against the killer. Close quote. So the basics of what that is saying is there's two things at work here in the ayat that we just quoted. And this was Surat Al-Baqarah, ayat 177 to 178. Now in 177, it mentioned regarding the wealth that is to be given for the near relative, and the near relative is the one near to you who's to be given the zakah, the orphans, the poor, the wayfarer, so it's the traveler and those people, those who ask, because you have in revealed law two types of people, the sa'il and the mahroom. The sa'il is the person that will tell you that he is in trouble. I am in dire need. But the mahroom will not tell you. And the mahroom would rather suffer than tell you because he feels shamed because of his state. So the mahroom says nothing, and the mahroom has to be sought and can be seen. The mahroom can only be seen, but the sa'il can be heard. And this is the point. Now the next thing is, and in those who are freed of their bonds. So the slaves that are in the process of trying to get free, or the slaves that are already free. Now, this is a very important point in Sharia, very quickly to just go over. When the Muslims came to nations, and we already mentioned the three types of slavery, but when the Muslims came to different nations, what happened is people that were free, or people that were slaves, excuse me, would often want to become free. And they would be seeking what is called their manumission. Manumission is to demand their freedom. And in all the books of fiqh, there is a chapter called the chapter of itq, the chapter of manumission, where the slave demands his freedom. And upon the slave, if the slave is not a felon or he has outstanding debts, it's upon the master to make that choice to free him and to do so. Then secondly, he also has to consider settlement so he can get on his feet. Now we spoke in the history classes about how destructive it was when Abraham Lincoln, in the half-hearted, mealy-mouthed gesture that he did, said that we're going to go ahead and free slaves with no settlement, with no land, with no other location for them to go to, with no employable skills, and put them out into the world. And that's why you have black neighborhoods and all these other areas, because you had a huge unskilled labor force that had been pushed out and said, well, now you're free, so go ahead and work. And then years later, they're saying, well, why aren't they getting the jobs that we have and everything? Well, because the conditions that they had come out of weren't fulfilled sufficiently for them to move ahead and to progress and to reach the same level where you're at. Now let's look at how the Muslims did things. The Turks, some of them were taken by the Muslims in war, so they were prisoners of war. But before the Muslims freed them, when they became Muslim, they taught them the thalathiyat, the big three. They taught them the faith, they taught them the fiqh, and they taught them forensic knowledge, a trade, some type of physical trade. Now you do your own research and look at what type of people the Mamluks were. The Mamluks produced Baybars. The Mamluks ruled Egypt for hundreds of years. The Mamluks produced a comparable civilization and were the only capable Muslim army that were able to satisfactorily rout the Crusaders when they invaded North Africa. And they're freed slaves. So by the time they were freed, many of them were ulama. Because the ulama counted on the fact that when we free these people, we can't merely free these people without having trained them, without giving them any employable knowledge, without having given them any skills to go out into the world with. We can't simply free these people and let them out into the world without having trained them with something. And so they came out into the world and they were freed. And so that's what Allah is saying in this ayah, that you give zakah to the freed slave and to those who are seeking their freedom, because if they've just been newly freed, do they have a lot of money at first? Well, no, they have to focus on finding an inn or somewhere new to stay at, to find training, to do the other things. And if they do have a little bit of money, do they have enough to get meat, which is generally expensive every time? Well, no, they probably don't. So they sure could use some help during this time to help them get on their feet so they can move ahead in life to be where they should be. I'll give a statistic for you. If you look at the first 3 generations, more than 60% of the ulama were either freed slaves themselves or the sons and daughters of freed slaves. Look at them. Look at how many non-Arab ulama there have been. They're the freed slaves or the sons of freed slaves. You don't find a Kurdish section in Egypt, a black neighborhood in Cairo. You know why? Because when they freed slaves, they prepared them so they could integrate into society. The issue that you're finding with the black neighborhood, or the Mexican neighborhood, or the Asian neighborhoods, for a middle class that's been shut out or what have you, is because of inability to train either unskilled people or people who have been put out of a certain section of society so they can be contributing members of society and melt and become part of whatever the organization or group is from a racial level. From a racial level. So this is part of the condition of what's there. So this ayah is referring to zakah. The categories of people mentioned in this ayah are the categories we normally hear of for zakah. The people that are near to you get the zakah. The orphans, the poor, the wayfarer, the traveler. Those who ask for it, so they really are in a condition. And those that are freed slaves. Now, freed slaves in this hukam, the ulama also say, those are also prisoners. So you have Muslim brothers that come out of prison. And it's not just the case that, well, they converted in prison. We can't really be sure how serious they are. No, they're born Muslims from Muslim families that have gone into the prison system. And then they've come out of the system. There's something in place to take care of them. You've gone into prison for whatever situation there is, or you've been held over because you committed a robbery and we amputated your hand, or you've been held over because you've committed a robbery and you've been lashed. But we're not going to hold it against you for the rest of your life. We're going to train you to move you back into society so you can contribute properly. You ask yourself this question when someone comes out of the prison system and they're asked on a job application, have you ever committed a felony? If you answer yes to this question, it may not affect your process for employment. I'll leave you to answer whether or not that's a true statement. But the ulama, look at what Allah has given in this ayah. We're supposed to take care of these people. Now, as far as the qisas, you see that the victimized side has 3 choices. They have 3 choices. 1, to seek that the killer is killed in the case of murder. 2, for the pardon, they can pardon them without asking for expiation or anything. And 3, they can ask for expiation. So you look in the situation of a family where the husband was murdered by someone and he was the main breadwinner. What good is it going to do the wife to say, yes, he has to die now? What good is it going to do her to do that? But if she was to say, well, no, I want a settlement of this much because it will give the family enough time to recover, to pay for funeral costs, to strengthen myself. So what the ulama would do is they would look at the earnings of that person on an annual level and disperse that money from the Muslim treasury.